Good morning, everybody. It's the 4th of the 4th, 2015, and this is the online live datasheet review that we do every second week. So I'm starting today with having a look at the training course. So when a customer comes in, there is member section, there's training. You can quickly jump to all the training areas like lesson 1, 2, 3, 4. They're also here as well. So you just scroll down, click on all of these. Now, of course, the live review session, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is when you will actually book a direct session with Peter to spend time with him going over your race and your selection. So that's a really important thing for you to do through your training. But we've got all of these video courses. So, for example, if we click on lesson 1, it'll actually bring up and show us. Of course, now my internet's running a little bit slow because I'm broadcasting, talking to you and all that sort of stuff. But there's always a video. There's always a resource section where it shows you you can download the PDF of the guidelines and parameters. And so we have the intro video there. Another part I wanted to show you is if we go back to members, we go back to the members section, is the support portal. Now, the support portal is a really great resource. We go into here because that was the training. So what we were in is training. Now we're going to go into support, and support's for technical ideas and questions and answers, things like that. And so you can see here everything you need to know. So getting started. So when you first get the program or when you first come back after a little while, announcements. The new portal is actually going to have a forum, so our customers can get in there and speak with each other, share ideas and how to actually make the program better. What I wanted to show you today is, oh, by the way, all the videos, so this video today and all of the other ones that we've recorded will actually all be in the training resources and video section. You just click on the date and you can watch these sessions. The data sheets. So I've had a few customers over the years say, oh, I'm not too sure about this, how do I do this, what happened in, for example, March. So we've got every single day's trading recorded from back to 2013, broken down by month, 2014, and of course we're up to date with March. We're about to upload April's as well. So this is what a race data sheet looks like. We obviously start at the first. This is broken up into trifecta and percent return. People try to sometimes do either. Most people will do both when they're actually fully trained, but you can do just trifectas or just percent returns. So we've broken them up like that. If I click on, just for example, the 7th, it'll bring up the actual race data sheet. So you can see all the races we've selected. Now, the reason sometimes that we haven't chosen to actually put in every race we haven't bet on, because there'll be a huge long list, but we have got in here no bet, and the reason might be something to take notice of. So the pool or the combos. So you might have had to add extra combos when selecting a trifecta, and people talk about that later on. You can see that this day in particular start off with a loss and then turn around to a pretty good profitable day. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to talk about. And so far this year, following the rules and systems that Peter teaches, we're up around about $16,000. So if you're over that, fantastic. You should be. Let us know. And if you're not over that, you also should be. You should be at least around about $16,000 for the year. Please contact Peter and see where you might be able to take more control of the program. Look, I totally understand that some people aren't going to run it 7 days a week. There might be people who are just running the program just Saturdays. Well, of course, you'll just go through the race data sheets and choose just Saturdays. Look up on your calendar, choose just Saturdays, and compare your results with what the company's doing. So that's basically the stuff I wanted to talk about today. Our customers also have the ability to submit a ticket, and I'm always asking customers to do that if they have any issues or want to know more. They can submit a ticket by, once again, going into help and support, submitting a ticket, and that means that they'll get personalised service. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today, Peter. So I might pass the baton over to you, and you can go through the normal training that we would do for customers every second Saturday.
Good, thanks, Matt.
All right, so look, what I'm going to do is I need to make you the presenter. So let me just go ahead and figure out how to do that. Oh, there you are. So I'm going to do this, right-click, make presenter, and then you'll need to show your screen.
Okay, now I've just, for some reason, I've been locked out of the data area. So I'll just get this restarted, Matt.
Okay. Well, we can see your screen now. That's no problem. I can just talk. So we use a online service, and some of our customers are using this as well. It actually hosts the program up on the internet, so you don't even have the program installed on your computer. It's actually hosted on an Amazon server, and that's how Peter accesses the program. And if any of our customers want to do that, they can. There are some customers with a Macintosh computer. They might go an Apple Mac. Can't call them Macintosh, just showing my age. They might have an Apple Mac. They might go, you know what, I don't want to install Windows. I'm happy just to access the program online like this. And you can see it works pretty quickly. You can see Peter's screen now. And that's we just on-charge what we get charged by Amazon, which is about $35, $40 a month. And so you can choose to do that instead of actually installing Windows. So Peter, I think I've filled in enough time there for you to bring up the day of history you're looking for.
I think so.
Perfect. All right. So what we're looking at here is there's days of history that Peter's got. Now remember, so guys, generally the reason I'm here is not just to waffle on. The reason I'm here, we've got Peter who's been with us for more than 10 years, trained hundreds of people to be successful with the program. The reason I'm here is to curate the questions. So I'm going to shut up in a minute, let you guys just talk, let Peter just go through the program, and then you can just go in the chat box or the question box, type in your questions, and I'll either answer them if they're an easy question, or if I think the whole group needs to hear this question and therefore get the answer, I'll interrupt Peter and ask the question. He can expand on a subject if it's required. So Pete, I'll now mute myself and over to you, mate.
All right, thanks very much, Matt. Well, let's get underway. We're going to look at a couple of, normally we look at Saturdays, I guess, because of the volume of racing, but I'm going to show a couple of, I suppose, midweek days, or days that, offer less volume of racing, to indicate that very clearly that the early days in the week, even though they're not as prodigious in terms of the volume of racing available, they can be quite profitable if you're being selective and you're choosing the races to bet in the correct way. For instance, let's look at the data for Wednesday, the 25th, which is only a week or so back. And of course, the first race we're looking at is one at Sandown, and here we have a possible mega factor in the offering. $1.90 favourite, a very large money gap associated with the favourite, you can see. If we go into percentage return, I think in percentage return, the money gap in this instance isn't quite as big in percentage return, so that tells us that over the last 5 intervals, maybe the amount of support for the favourite isn't building like it was earlier. But when you go back to the 1 minute mark, you can see quite clearly that, I suppose, relatively speaking, you're sort of starting to get an increment in money support here. And there's a very large amount of money here at the 1 minute mark for that runner number 9 relative to the money for the rest of the field. So with that in mind, mega factor becomes an option that you could be chosen. And if you're going to choose mega factor is the option that is chosen, then the selections must for second come down to this level here, because we're obliged to cover at least 80% of the money, not 70% like we are when we're making normal group selections. So that means that the selections per second can't stop here, because we're only holding 79.81% of the money. So we bring the second place group down to where we've got third, and you can see, looking at the money profile at the 1 minute mark, that selection outcome best accommodates the money profile. And then the money really drops away on these lower order runners. So that gives us an optimal coverage of 20 combinations to get us started. All right, now let's go to AR04 now. Now this is pretty straight up and down basic selections. I feel. First place, we're covering the top 2 runners, 50% to a red money gap. Second place down to number 3, third place down to number 2. And you can see that once again the money profile is accommodated by those basic group selections. If we go to percentage return, the separator locations very much mirror what we're seeing with the money gap locations in trifecta. So that's sort of by way of confirmation that selection outcome is the appropriate one. All right, going to BR08 now.
Hey, Peter.
Yes, mate.
Just briefly, I've had a few people asking what's this and what's that. What I'm actually going to do, and I should have mentioned this earlier, for anybody who's a brand new person to the idea, hasn't seen a demonstration, because I've also invited some people who haven't bought the program to today's session just to show you what our training's like. What I'm going to do for you is next week I'm going to send out an invitation for me to do a full demonstration of the software, really explain and get nitty-gritty on what are these column meanings, what are the things Peter's saying. So just watch through today. Understand you're probably not going to understand all the terms we use, but I am going to go back over this data, the same data, and say, okay, so what Peter was talking about here, and this is what this does, and this is how this works. So we'll have a really in-depth session next week, next Thursday. I'm going to do that for you. So I'm going to, I'll just click off there. So anybody asking, not too sure about something, just letting you know I am going to do a demonstration for those people who haven't bought the program yet. All right, back to you, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, for the benefit of the uninitiated at this stage, remember that all of these things are explained in detail in the training program, that the comprehensive training regime that is offered with the program. And I suppose just to sort of to give a very simplistic logic to what we're doing, is what we're trying to throw a blanket over the runners in races that offer or that are attracting the most market support. So by doing that, by throwing that blanket over a group of runners in that manner, we heighten the probability of having a winning outcome, or we maximise the probability of having a winning outcome, and we only trade races where we have that heightened probability of success and a heightened expectation of making reasonable profit. That's basically the rationale behind all the selection processes that we follow and recommend. Okay, now here in percentage return, because obviously it's certainly not a trifecta race by any stretch of the imagination, we go to percentage return and we can see that we have a weak favourite. I'll just unlock it so we can sort of see how it works. Now our weak favourite is number 5, holding 20.75% of the money at the top of the field. Okay, the runners, according to the cumulative dollars column here, and indeed at the 1 minute mark, the runners that are most money competitive with our weak favourite have got to be these 2 runners here, as defined by this separator. So I guess the potential group up against that weak favourite would be those 2 runners. If we're going to trade with any runners as a group against the favourite, we'd be trading with 1 and 6. But remember, any trading group has to be holding a cumulative percentage of the win pool of at least 47.5%. And of course, if we take the this percentage away from the cumulative percentage for the three runners, we have nowhere near that for these two runners. So that tells us that we've got to add the favourite to the group as a matter of course, and of course that is also supported by the fact that the favourite is showing a number in the WUP column, and so for those two good reasons, the favourite, even though weak, will be added to our group. We still have a return on offer of more than 50%, so that is a trading race. All right, now where was I up to? Okay, all right, here we go. Next one. Now, here I guess we could look at doing a percentage, we could consider as an option mega factor, but of course when we look down at the pool, it's not anywhere near the required minimum of $8,000. So immediately that mega factor option is denied us, even though there is very strong obvious money support for the favourite at the 2-minute and 1-minute intervals relative to what's happening lower down. So we're obliged to make group selections and cover the top two runners for first, and of course we can cover down to this level for second and third. Normally, if we're applying the basic money gap process, of course we'd be bringing third down to that level, because to satisfy the 50, 70, 90 to red money gap requirement. But of course, because we're holding 87.5% of the money to this level, with a very large defining money gap and clear and marked reduction in money support below number 11 as we descend into the lower field, there is certainly justification to apply the allowance. Now you might say, well, that's really concentrating our selections in a small area of the field. But it's not so much the area of the field we're concerned about, it's the concentration of money that we're trying to accommodate. And certainly, relatively speaking, the concentration of money lies for those top 5 runners. And so certainly if somebody or a user chose to just use basic money gap selections, that's fine, but certainly the percentage allowance for third place can be effectively used in this instance to, I guess, increase and enhance the inevitable profit in a winning situation, which did occur in this race. Okay, moving to MRO8 now. Once again, over to percentage return. All right, all the ingredients here to trade with the top 2 runners are in place. Firstly, we have a separator marking the group. Now we have a strong favourite, obviously, so the favourite's got to go in the group. It's strong for 2 reasons. It's strong in terms of the percentage that it's holding, more than 25%. It's strong because it's at the top of the field with its own red separator. So for 2 good reasons, it must be added to any group we choose. 3 and 14 are definitely the runners that are attracting the bulk of the money support. You can see it quite clearly cumulatively. You can see it at 1 minute. You can see it here at the next. Although we've had a bit of a data interruption issue here, but I mean very strong money support here, very strong money support here, and of course the 2 runners together are holding 47.555% of the money. So that indeed the indications are, based on the information that's presenting, is that that's the appropriate trading group to run with. And then we go to percentage return again. Now, Here, I guess we could look at doing that because we've got, as you can see, the favourite is a weak favourite. If I take this out, let's come down here. So we've got a weak favourite at number 4 that we're dealing with at the 1 minute interval. Okay, now the runners that are most money competitive cumulatively would be these two runners here. So let's single them out as being the most competitive with our weak favourite. Now we'd have to add the weak favourite to our group because we need to be holding, the final trading group's got to be holding at least 47.5% of the money. But when we look at the 1 minute interval, you can see that there is not clearly defined dominant money support here. And I guess if there's not a great deal of difference, there's not a big differential in cumulative money going from here to here. And if we go back to 2 minutes, look at the size of the separator. It's 2.16, and when we go to the 1 minute mark, it drops down to 1.79. Now, it's still a qualifying separator, but it's an indicator that the money support for a group of runners has evened out. And in fact, we've got a runner here, number 1, that's attracting more money than any of these 3 already chosen runners. So they're based on what we've seeing here, even though we could trade with the top 3 runners as a group, as a procedural trade, perhaps a little caution and selectivity might come into play here, and might choose to think, well, is it the strongest opportunity that we could trade with? And maybe the answer would be that it would become a lot stronger if we added those 2 or these 3 runners down to the next separator. And of course that takes us out on the basis of return. And so even though it's a potential trade applying the basic procedures, the money profile sort of suggests otherwise. So it sort of goes back to that sort of selectivity and that critical analysis that we're always talking about. You know, we only want to trade in races that we feel are worthy of our investment. And if for any reason there is an element of doubt, well then the correct choice is not to pursue that race. All right, so that's I've gone through what were the trading races. Let's have a look at a couple of others on this day. And I'll just return back up here. Where we? Okay, now if I just go back and we'll start from scratch here. If I make the basic money gap selections here, we will be choosing these top 2 runners. For first, we'll be coming down to that level for second, and we'd be coming down to that level for third. But when we look at the situation, we see that we've got a runner here. If we do our colour band scrutiny, that is, we look in the brown band to see if we're going to apply the additional allowance, and we look in the brown band first, and we see that there is no cause to be considering to apply the additional allowance for first, because these runners are not money competitive with these 2 in the blue band, the first place group. But when we look in the green group, we can see that there is a runner that's sort of attracting much the same sort of money support, runner number 2 as runner 3. So there would be justification in bringing the selections down by applying the additional allowance to there, or in fact you could drop back in recognition of the fact that you can apply a money gap allowance. 90% of the money to that level. My mistake. I'll do that again. We could apply the money gap allowance by doing that. But because we've got, if we look in this green band, we see that we have a similarity of money here. And if we go to percentage return, perhaps the indications are that there is a separator at this level here that's sort of highlighting the fact that there is that similarity of money. So if we go back to trifecta again, it does sort of suggest that that would be the most appropriate selection outcome. Remember that if you're going to apply the money gap allowance for third, you can certainly do that if your selections for first for second have already been resolved by the appropriate money gap. But if you're thinking, well, I'm going to bring second place down to a lower money gap, then you've got to bring third place. You can't sort of say, oh, well, I'll apply the money gap allowance for third and cover second down to this level. That's just totally illogical. So there are grounds based on the basic sort of similarity of the money in the lower reaches of the field to apply that additional allowance for second place, and of course that would rule the race out. And also, of course, the pool's too small. I mean, we could make a pool allowance, given that the pool is between $4,000 and $5,000, but we're only going to use our discretion to make a pool allowance if we have a very clear and definitive trading opportunity on our hands. If we're at sixes and sevens about the clarity of the trading opportunity, then the pool allowance is not going to be brought into play.
And Peter, I know you say this a lot, that there's always another race. There's literally dozens of races every day, and if somebody doesn't feel comfortable about trading a race, then just don't.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's where patience comes in. You know, you've got to be patient, and I think one of the great problems that a lot of people have, and it's quite understandable, is that they want to get some action. You know, well, let's get some action going here. And
yeah, this program's not about watching the races and having as the in-joke goes, having a scotch and a gamble. It's not about that. It's actually about sitting down at your business and running a business and treating it as such. And so that's the point I wanted to make. There's always another race, and yeah, you've got to actually focus on this in an appropriate way.
Yeah, that's right.
Peter, one other thing is Wayne was just saying that he's just going through his training and remembering that one of the things we teach in training is to look at each race from the 5-minute mark in. So maybe in your next race, can you just commentate from the 5-minute mark in? Would that be all right?
That's interesting, because I'm going to go to another day, and I'm going to use a certain race to highlight a point that very much addresses that question.
Yeah, good.
Or that issue.
Because this program is not just about the 1-minute mark, and that's the point that Wayne was making, and the point that everybody who owns a program needs to know. This is just, you don't need to be in front of the program all day. You need to be available to get near the program. Of course, you start the day, you scope out the races. You know that any 6-horse race and things like that, you're not going to be trading on. You write down, okay, well, I'm definitely going to be looking at MR4. That's going to race that I might look at. And so you're in front of the computer, but you want to be in front of the computer 5 minutes before the race happens, so you can actually start watching the data come in. So, sorry, Peter, I'll let you go back to it. But yeah, just wanted to make that point that, Wayne, you're absolutely correct. Our customers, you should be watching the program on a minute-by-minute basis.
Well, let's have a look at, let's address that issue now by using this particular race here. Now, at the 1-minute interval, you can see that the final selections are basic money gap selections. Top two runners for first, pretty straightforward. But if we go back to the 2-minute mark, you can see the money gap location was further down. Now, and so it is most important though that when you make the relevant selections at each interval, you want to also be, I guess, looking at the money profile to see if you can, I guess, second guess what or anticipate what might what change or what variation might occur that may affect the selections that are already in place. So sort of you're looking at it at 3 minutes, you'd be saying, well, no question, I'm bringing first place down to this level here, you know, because the money is telling me that here, right? These runners are all in the same dominant money group. When we go to the 2-minute interval, you can see quite clearly that even though the same money gap selections would apply, the concentration of money is now definitely for these top two runners, right? So this runner, number one, is sort of falling by the wayside to a certain degree. It really doesn't belong. It certainly belongs in the money gap group, but it doesn't belong in terms of money support. So you could be thinking at the 2-minute interval, hey, I'm covering the top three runners at this point, but if this dominance, money dominance for these two runners continues, I'm bound to have a new money gap created here, given that I'm already holding the 50% of the money. So it's almost like you're anticipating what indeed does occur, because the money strength for those two runners carries over. And so it's almost like you can get to a point, if you're reviewing, you know, over a series of intervals, and you're not just sort of looking at the money gap locations and not just looking at percentages, but you're saying, well, what's the story being told here? What are the money indications telling me? What are the most appropriate selections, and what are they likely to be if a certain money pattern plays out? And by doing that, you get to a point where you become almost clairvoyant. You're sort of saying, oh, look, I virtually know where I can put the money gap selections in that are going to apply at the 1-minute mark. I mean, not in every race, obviously that's not going to happen, but there are certain races that can lend themselves to that, and they are the races that are very much the tradable races, because they're, you know, they're I suppose heralding the outcome, and they're sort of really being obvious in their demonstration of where the money support lies. So I think the races, if you want to sort of package it up in a nice sweet bundle, the races that should be traded at all times are the ones that demonstrate consistency over several intervals. They are the ones where at the 5-minute mark you make certain money gap selections, say for first, and those money gap selections just get stronger and stronger and stronger. Why? Because the defining money gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you know, you're picking the top two runners at, you know, 4 minutes, you're picking the top two at 3, the top two at 2, and so they virtually select themselves. And so they're the races that you can have full confidence in as trading races. I mean, they don't all win, but I can tell you a large percentage of them do. So I hope that sort of answers the question, that it is most important not to sort of sit back, you know, twiddling thumbs and saying, oh yeah, okay, there's a money gap there, and I'll worry about it at 1 minute, or that's not the way to get the most out of the information, and that's not the way to, I suppose, make the most confident decisions at 1 minute. Okay.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah,
Couple
look,
more,
that's great. I appreciate that you've diverted a little bit, but that's the idea of these sessions, is to be interactive. So if there's any more, pardon me, if there's any more questions that are out there, please go ahead. I am answering them as we go. I'm typing away furiously to people who have basic questions and things like that. But if there's something that I think everybody could benefit from, I'll certainly go ahead and interrupt. So if there's any more questions, please fire them through either on the chat box to me personally or the question box.
Yeah, so that's I guess the key is to look at all the indicators. I mean, as I've said many times, in its simplest terms, this program is a cause and effect program. It's the money flow, it's the money direction that causes the creation and location of the money gaps, the size of money gaps, the size of percentages, all those things. And so you've got to look at from right to left. I know in the past a lot of people made the mistake of just looking at the money gaps and looking at the percentages and gave no scant regard to the money flow. And really, the money flow is the sort of the wellspring of all this other stuff over on the left-hand side. So it's money gaps, C percentage, and if you get into that sort of disciplined way of looking at it, it might be a little bit difficult and in the early stages, but it's amazing how with practice the information starts to relay a story to you, and it really does very much assist with confident selection making and anticipation of selection outcomes at the 1 minute interval. Okay. SR07, of course, wasn't ultimately a trading race in trifecta because there is a guideline breach. Notwithstanding the fact it's only one guideline breach, if it's a guideline breach, it means that the program is saying, look, really not worth our while. The potential for profit could be debatable, so why trade? Why risk your money? So we go up to percentage return, and of course, very clearly, we're going to be trading with the top two runners here as a finale to the Monday trading, the very lucky last race of the day. Both runners holding in excess of 47.5% of the money. Large separator, bigger than the minimum requirement of 1.7. Strong, very strong cumulative money here. Good, strong money support here and here, particularly for those top two runners. So no question about that being a valid trading race with those two selections, which is the trading finale and the program finale. Okay. Now,
so Pete, what was the data sheet result on that day?
Oh yeah, okay, I'll show you that for Monday, and I'll go back and show you the Wednesday one too. So you can see here, and I didn't show you the earlier race, I'll go back and I'll show you that in a minute, but there were only 3 trades on this day, but look at the profit. Look at the three out of 3. Now, it's a Monday, and the volume of racing is such that you could accommodate the whole day without much difficulty, because I suppose the hiatus between each race is such that you can be doing other things. Remember that you're only going to review the race arguably from 5 minutes out. So very often when you click from you've reviewed one race and you go to the next one, you could have sometimes 15, 20 minutes. So, you can be occupied in other areas in the immediate vicinity of the program. And it's not overwhelming or tedious to cover the whole day. And I mean, here we have a day, and by being selective and being patient, it's produced a really strong profit outcome. I'll just quickly go back to that earlier race just so that you can see. It's just a straight up 50, 70, 90 to red money gaps. Money profile supports that without a shadow of a doubt, and so yeah, there's your first winning trade for the day on the Monday. And if I'll just go to the Wednesday and go to the data sheet. We started out successfully. Now, I mean, some people using the program might sort of get to this point and think, oh, well, okay, $386 is nothing to sneeze at, and take it there. Of course, we do have a loss here, which was a pretty straight up trading opportunity. There was no reason not to trade in it. It was quite strongly presented in money terms. It returns us into a, into the black to a small degree, but it would be still, given that if we have a stop loss imposed, we'd be well within, I suppose, a reasonable stop loss level with minus $11. So I guess it's important to it would be understandable not to stop trading here, but to continue on to see if we can find another fully justifiable trading opportunity, which was found here, producing a profit, returning us to the red. And of course the big finale were these two trading opportunities here, 24 trifectas and two selections in percentage return. And so even though the day was a little bit sort of checkered in the middle section, or a bit fallow in the middle section, our perseverance and patience have rewarded us with a very profitable outcome. So I guess it is important to remember that even though the most significant days in terms of racing volume are the days involving the weekend, you can trading in the days where the racing volume isn't so great can be quite fruitful, as has been demonstrated with those 2 days there. So I suppose the message today, the overall message today is, or the underpinning message that we're trying to get home is that it's important to do the review in races over several intervals and take into account all the indicators that will assist in making a confident decision about whether the race qualifies or doesn't. And certainly get into the business of not just reviewing what's happening at that particular at a particular interval, but what is indicated will happen in the future, or could possibly happen in the future, as you saw in that earlier race, because that can sort of, by adopting that sort of anticipatory approach to your assessment, it can make it much easier and much more the final racing selections to be, I guess, much easier to predict and anticipate.
Well, that's great.
That's all I wanted to talk about today, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Look, I appreciate that. I know that you've had to cover a bit of ground because there's some people in here who aren't fully trained, and but I do appreciate that. It may have taken you off your normal stride, but you've dealt with it with ease. So look, thank you for that, and also I'd like to thank everybody here. If there are some questions, you can email Peter. Obviously, if you're thinking about becoming a customer, obviously you want to communicate with me. So I've been recording this session, and I'll go ahead and put this up for the customers in the support portal. and everybody enjoy a great Easter break.
Yes, absolutely. I'll endorse that those comments, Matt, and enjoy the Easter break, and we will resume our webinar activities in a fortnight's time. So everybody have a safe and happy Easter, and thanks very much for your attendance, and I hope you managed to derive some benefits from today's presentation.
Very good. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Matt, and bye, everybody. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.